Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. It is Saturday, February 22nd, and you know what that means. It is time for the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, coming for your soul, Jeremy Pierce. Welcome, one and all. You know, you can check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and of course, the 215 on Twitter. And today's show, well, look, I put that asterisk on the schedule every month as card subject to change. This is a change. Today's show was supposed to be failed expectations or failure to deliver. I can't even remember, but all I know is I didn't have a show. I don't even remember what I was thinking when I made that topic. But something else came to mind today, and we're going to talk about being outclassed. The NXT men are currently being outclassed by the women, and it's not even closer. We're going to talk about what went wrong, what to do, what to fix, without, necessarily lowering the women, because they are the bread and butter of NXT. But for now, you know what's next, so just go on and hit my music. Now, today's list is very, very simple. NXTNA Dream Matches. And I know I've done this list before. I'll pin that in the description for you all. So hopefully I don't, go over some of the same matches. But we start with number 5, Spitfire versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. These are essentially the two top women's tag teams in NXT and TNA. This is how it's going to go down. Spitfire are the current TNA Women's Knockouts champion, tag team champions, and Lash Legend Jakara Jackson are the top team. Honestly, they're probably the top team in all of the WWE at this point, even eclipsing a team like Kaden Carter or Katana Chance. But I want to see this team. I want to see this matchup. This is a good matchup. Essentially, veterans like Danny Luna and Jody Threats. Versus, Lash and Legend, still up and comers, still learning the ropes, but they have really, really succeeded and gotten better from where they started. Number 4, Savannah Evans versus Lash Legend. This is a straight up Hoss fight. Now, when it comes to Hosses in professional wrestling in the women's division, well, AEW's got that locked down. But the companies do have some, especially on the main roster in WWE. But when it comes to NXT, Lash Legend is the Hoss of that division. To a lesser extent, you have Zarya and Nikita Lyons, but Lash Legend going up against Savannah Evans, who's the new Hoss of TNA. Things like Jessica Havoc is out at the moment. I just want to see big, beefy woman slapping beef. That's it. Number 3, Axiom versus Laredo Kid, the top luchador in NXT versus the top luchador in TNA. These two would make magic. Some great matches to see the skill, to see the technique, just to see what creatively they can come up with inside the ring would be a thing of beauty, something to behold. And honestly, wouldn't even care who wins here. It's just something that kind of just has to happen at this point. Number 2, Joe Hendry versus Trick Williams. Essentially, these are the two faces of their respective companies. Joe Hendry for TNA, Trick Williams for NXT. And why not just a friendly engagement between the faces of the the guys that have been carrying that brand for a long time. Picking a winner will be hard here, but I believe I know who would win it. Number 1, Ethan Page versus Eddie Edwards. This is for fans like me, for the historians that know wrestling and know the history between Ethan Page and Eddie Edwards. Man, oh man, did these two have a great tag team feud. The feuds in general in TNA, and just to see Ethan Page step his game up one more time and show it the world what he truly is capable of versus Eddie Edwards, who delivers week in and week out, will be a thing of beauty and a thing to behold. But that's our list. We'll be right back with our Superstar Spotlight. The spotlight is bright, is back, and is shining on the team of Fatal Influence in NXT. This 3-woman team of JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Jasmine Nix are hopefully not regulated to becoming a carbon copy of Toxic Attraction. That former 3-woman team that featured JC Jane and Mandy Rose and Gigi Dolan. Now, Fallon Henley just lost the North America Championship. She was kind of just a holdover champion, but these women can't be relegated down the card. There is a very nice new team in NXT consisting of Gigi Dolan, Tatum Paxley, and Shotzi, and there is a good feud to be had right there with these 6 women. Fatal Influence was there first, so they have to be elevated. And I think what you really have to do is get these women the tag team titles. I think it's about time for the women's tag team championships to go back down to NXT, and that's an easy way to elevate these women. Hell, you could even create a women's heritage cup and let these 3 women hold all the gold, but you cannot make them a carbon copy of Toxic Attraction. They have the talent, they have the look. Yes, they're still green with the exception of JC Jane, who is the veteran of the group, but you gotta solidify these 3 women and not have them get lost in the shuffle. There is something there, and they're working on it, and it's clicking. Just figure out how to expose it and amplify it. We'll be right back. Well, 2.0 of NXT, that era has come and gone, and it was really rough. It was not fun, to say the least. And we're finally into this new era, and right now this era involves the women. To put it simply, the women are the top of NXT right now. And after moving out from the black and gold to the 2.0 to what do you want to call this, the HBK era, NXT has gone through that major transition, and we've come out, I think, better on the other side. And right now at the top of NXT are 2 things, 2 people, however you want to say it: Fraxium and the women. Fraxium, the team of Nathan Frazier and Axiom, are the current NXT Tag Team Champions, and somehow, some way, they keep winning matches. They are essentially having a very legendary reign, which will pretty much elevate them to some of the greats of the NXT Tag Team division all time. And yes, they've got the story of, always focusing on singles things and not really focusing on themselves as a team, but it's working, and they are pretty much carrying the NXT Tag Team division. And then you have the women. Let's take a quick recap, a trip back to the Black and Gold brand. The Black and Gold of NXT featured great men, great feuds, and great women. From the 4 Horsewomen to Athena to Asuka to Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane, the women were always at the top. And then we went through this really bad era of 2.0 with the horribleness of Mandy Rose, who they just decided to push above every single person, when you had Isla Dawn and Alba Fire and Meiko Satomura and Roxanne Perez there. And then we come out on the other side with Roxanne Perez carrying the women's division while also elevating the other women like Cora Jade, like Brinley Reese, so on and so forth. And then you finally have this new influx of this new big 3 with Zarya, Stephanie Vaquer, and Julia. Then you had, Kelani Jordan Grace has come in. So the NXT women have been absolutely great, and right now they are carrying NXT. They get multiple segments on a 2-hour show, they get multiple matches on a 2-hour show, and the men are kind of just left in the dust. So what went wrong with the men? Well, we go back to the 2.0 era, and there were 3 men carrying that brand: Carmelo Hayes, Bron Breakker, and Ilya Dragunov. All right. Melo and Braun had a blood feud. And even before that, when Braun was the NXT champion, Melo was the North American champion, and they were purposely keeping these two dudes apart. They were keeping these two dudes apart. Whereas then they had Braun and Ilya go at it, and they were building up Ilya, who had dethroned Gunther. So now you have these three men, top of their game, absolutely smashing it week in and week out, and then they all got caught up to the main roster. And who was there to replace them? Honestly, nobody. And yes, they've all fared differently on the main roster, but they're still there, and they're going to be the future of this business. But after NXT lost them, you didn't do anything. And one of their biggest missteps after losing Melo, after losing Braun, after losing Ilya, was not elevating Andre Chase. Here's the main thing. Here's the thing. Andre Chase started as a heel, but became so good and got super over that you had to make him a face. And he was one of, if not the most popular act in NXT. That's a bona fide fact. And I believe he might have won the Heritage Cup. He might even have a North American Championship ring. But where's Andre Chase now? Chase U is done after this stupid ass feud with Ridge Holland and Brinley Reese turning on Chase U. And now Andre is gone and finding himself. You ruined a good thing. Duke Hudson, gone. Not even in the company anymore. And you had this great act in Andre Chase, and you never followed up really on that popularity. You went wrong there. Then you had a lot of to satiate a lot of people, to keep eyes on the product as you're moving to the CW. You had main roster talent coming down. Now, it kind of worked with the women because you had Becky Lynch win the NXT Women's Championship, become a Grand Slam champion, and then put over Lyra Valkyria. So that worked to an extent, right? But then you had the Good Brothers come down, really didn't do anything. You had American Alpha come down, you really didn't do anything with them. You had the New Day come down and actually win the NXT Tag Team Championships, and that did nothing. You had at the time Ziggler come down and win the NXT Championship and have a little feud with Braun, and that is forgettable. You had AJ Styles feud with Grayson Waller, and that was probably the most success they've had. So calling down the main roster men didn't do anything. And I'm probably forgetting some other people, but you see what I'm getting at. So you lost Melo, Braun, and Ilya. Didn't follow up by getting ready for them to leave and having future stars being made. Except for one guy. We'll get to him next. You didn't elevate Andre Chase because he should have been a multiple time champion at some point, tag team champion, North American champion, whatever the case may be. And now he's just in purgatory. Calling the men down from the main roster really didn't help elevate anybody. And then, more importantly, you had the one man that you were building your brand around. And that was Trick Williams. Trick fought everybody. He fought Ilya, he fought Braun, he fought Melo. Won the NXT Championship from Ilya. Feuded with Melo. Got the rub from Melo. And Trick's over. He is the face of NXT. But I want you to think back on his World Championship reign. After Ilya and Melo, what do you ultimately remember? You probably remember something recent like Ethan Page. That's it. And that was by accident. So you make Trick the face of your brand, but where's his best feud? What's What are you doing with him? What's happening here? And now he's not in the main event scene anymore, but he's always going to be a main eventer. And there's no whatever. You know what I mean? Trick can't be more than just a guy. And you've got to find a way to move him somewhere. Put the face back into his place. So how do we fix this? Well, first things first, the current NXT champion is Obafemi. And right now, he is starting a feud with Moose. Moose, the former TNA World Champion, the current X Division Champion, showed up on NXT this past week, and you could see the look of fear in Obafemi's eyes. He looked shook. Put on a brave face, because that's how you know how good Moose is. And here's the thing. I know many have seen it. NXT has won a lot of these matches more often than not when they're crossing over with TNA, and the words cross the line. Obafemi can't lose, but he also can't win against Moose. You cannot have Moose lose to Obafemi. Obafemi cannot pin Moose. Oba has to come out looking like a bigger star because Moose is that dude. You're saying, well, why isn't Obafemi feuding with Joe Hendry, champion versus champion? That's because, let me put something onto you historians. Hendry already showed up in NXT. And he's got his W's. Wouldn't be shocking for him to show up anymore. The X Division Championship in TNA is just as, if not more important than the World Championship, because the X Division carried TNA. The X Division is the bread and butter of TNA. And when you have a former World Champion, not even former main eventer, the guy in Moose holding the X Division Championship, that championship means more than anything at this point. So now he's going up against Obafemi. Oba's got to look good and come out looking like a star. And Moose is going to help him do that. You've got to bring back Chase U. It's that simple. You need to give us the vignettes of Chase down on his luck, looking for his place in the world, but slowly and surely finding himself. Hell, going back to school and showing up with a new group, some former students, and you have to bring back Chase U and shoot them to the moon. Chase U is super over. Andre Chase is super over. Man wrestles in a sweater. And some Stacey Adams shoes. It's time to elevate that man, because you can't let popularity like that fall by the wayside. You know what I mean? And sticking with Chase and another guy, Andre Chase and Wes Lee have to win gold, whether that is the Heritage Cup, whether that is the NXT or North American Championship. You've got to put gold on their waist. And I'm going to get to Wes Lee in a minute. I'm going to get to Wes. You've seen something here. You know what I mean? Outside of Fraxium, outside of Obafemi, the men are lost. Wes and Chase are probably the two bona fide stars that you've made on the main roster outside of Oba and Trick. So follow up and put some gold around their waist, and they can do it in the ring. And then you see that they have faith in Wes Lee. They have faith in him. They believe in him because he's on TV every week. This heel run is working, and he's about to start a feud, I believe, with Trick Williams. He got a side stop at NXT going against the Rascals, his former Peoples. He's got a little group with him, but Wes can't forget about that slap that Trick gave him. And this needs to become the de facto, what would you say is the best men's feud ever in the history of NXT? It's Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, right? This has to equal that. This has to get that deep and that personal. This has to get to the levels of, if we go over AEW, I don't want to say Swerve and Heyman, because those that's just the blood feud. That's a for life feud. But you can go with Hangman and MJF right now. You can go with Kenny and Ospreay, friends, enemies. Hell, you can go Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, another one of the greatest feuds ever in NXT. But Wes and Trick have to become the face. They have to be elevated to the top. And that is the question. Who is the face of NXT? For the longest time recently, it was Roxanne Perez. It was Trick Williams. They were the faces of NXT. And now Trick, I don't think, is the face anymore. I know who the face of the women's division is. It's Jordan Grace. It's Julia. Stephanie Vaquer. It's Kehlani Jordan. It's Zarya. It's Fatal Influence. You know what I mean? They've got that down packed. So who's the face of the men's division? Because right now, it may be Obi, but Obi doesn't really seem there just yet. And we thought it was going to be Trick. Who are you going to step up and put out there and say, hey, I need you. Take the ball and run with it. I'm very, very curious to see what they're going to do, because we see it week in and week out. And recently, you brought in Ricky Starks, who's now going by Ricky Saints. Should have just called him Ricky Saint. That's a much better name. He has the potential. He has the potential to be that face. It's great on the mic. Pretty decent, pretty solid in the ring. We've seen what he's been able to do in AEW. Ricky Saints could be that guy. I want you to put that in the back of your mind and sleep on that. The men have got to step up. And it's not just on them, because I believe in this saying. I believe in this through and through. You are only as good as you are booked. So you have to book them better, while also not denigrating the women and putting the women down the card, because the women are your bread and butter. But something's got to give with the men. But let me know what you guys think. That's our show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Look on the screen what we got coming up. Got a good stuff coming up. Elimination Chamber is next weekend. Looking forward to that. It has become a really, really big show. But check out the socials. Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube. Charismatic_Creations 52 on Instagram. And of course, the 215 on Twitter. And as always, Gigi Dolan, Bailey, Isla Dawn, Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and Anna J. Holla at your boy. Peace.